Matthew Henderson, Mattewhenderson. Date is 12/7/2018.
Let me check some more. Keep saying something.
It's awesome. It's nice to know, in those times that all those things that you felt that you wanted to believe that were true and real, when you figure out that they are, man, that's when you fall off.
Yep.
Everything
All right,
else.
so let's start back on this. Say your name, spell it, and then the date.
Matthew Henderson, Matthenderson. Date is December 7th, 2018.
And first question, what addiction problems led you to come to Adult and Teen Challenge?
I was dependent physically on alcohol. I guess that, the alcohol, the chemical, covered up a lot of emotional pain caused from depression, anxiety. So however you want to look at it, depression, anxiety played a big part of, my early childhood, and later, as a young adult and teenagers, masked by alcohol, which then became physical addiction. That was the one that kind of held on to me, all those years. It was just a combination of both, it wasn't just one thing, it was just kind of everything as a whole. There's however, it's looked at, emotional, psychological, and then the physical addiction. It's just it's a cycle altogether.
The second question is, how do you think God thought of you before Teen Challenge?
I know God, loved me from very, went to church when I was younger. I chose, I wanted to know Jesus, and it was definitely planted. The seed was planted early in my childhood, and just wasn't maintenance, in my earlier, earlier years into teenage years. But I always, felt that there was a purpose for life. There was a reason for all the good things that happen, and there wasn't really a question whether, I was being punished. It was always just kind of an internal acknowledgement that, I wasn't doing the right thing. So it was never a question of love, I don't think. I always felt loved from Jesus and from God.
Okay, next one is... Next one is, how did your addiction make you feel?
Well, under the influence, good. But the concealment, the deceit that I had to involve with it, brought a lot of shame and guilt along with it, and those are probably the two worst feelings I think that a human, can feel emotionally. And then, with the feelings of shame and guilt, there's isolation, all the lies and deceit that the enemy uses to keep you bound to the lies and the sin. It's really just so much bigger than just an addiction or a chemical problem. It's the things that you don't see, that we don't see in the physical world, with drug abuse or chemical or alcoholism. It's the things that are inside a person that they feel that keeps them chained up to the enemy. To answer that, though, I mean, shame and guilt are the worst feelings that were brought upon my life.
Then the next one, describe how your addiction problems affected the people around you.
Now that I can look back, of course, there's a lot of anger and hurt involved, but I think probably one of the biggest things that people felt was helplessness. There's a lot of people that still support me in my life and my recovery throughout even my addiction. They were there as a source of support out of love. They knew I wasn't the person that everybody else could see. They knew my heart well enough to keep trying to encourage me to be better. But I think that feeling of helplessness and then turning to hopelessness also, there's really just nothing anyone ended up being able to do, and it's very disheartening, I would imagine. And I know it from first-hand experience also. It's very disheartening when you can see something clearly and another person can't see it for themselves, and you want to be able to put your hands out to help that person succeed or overcome whatever they're going through, but it's not possible without Christ. It's just not.
Tell us a story when your addiction was at its worst.
It's hard to pick one. I don't know, any horror story you can imagine, anything that could go wrong in somebody's life, I've definitely experienced. Been put in jail many times, not directly because of addiction, but for things that stemmed from addiction. I don't. There's there's a lot of damage. There's a lot of damage done. I've compromised a home for myself in my younger years. I mean, I don't know. I lost a wife. I've separated myself from, a lot of my family, friends go. Everything important, everything that I thought was important, I guess, is a better way to say it. Everything that I thought was important in my life is gone. Anything that could burn up has burned up.
Oh, right now? You need a sign up, though.
Build me one.
You want to build me one? You want to build me one?
Okay, go back to where you were. Sorry.
Anything that material-wise that could burn has burned. The the loss of friends is probably the worst. Am I still on one story? Am I supposed to come up with a story?
No, I think that's probably good. Get back over here. Okay, the next question is. Let's see here. Describe yourself physically and mentally just before you came in the program.
Physically, it's pretty similar in stature, I guess. Of course, you gain a little weight, so I'm a little heavier than I was. I can't say that I was in that terrible a condition. I had kind of started to turn away from, the things that were killing me: alcohol and tobacco, cigarettes, cigars. It was just really kind of a 2 or 3 day I guess relapse, you want to call it that. It was just something that was dissatisfying to me, and I wasn't happy with where my life was headed. Just a dissatisfaction for life at that point. I think people can exist, in the world without using drugs or alcohol, and they don't have to be, withered away and like TV or a movie would portray a drug addict or a broken person. The things that were damaged to me were internal completely. So however I looked when I got here, however I presented myself, completely contradicted what was going on inside me. So if somebody could look inside me and see what was happening, it was an absolute wreck. It was absolute broken pieces, millions of broken pieces that shouldn't, by any means ever been put back together. So I can't say that I looked like I felt, or I looked like I was broken, but I was terribly broken inside.
And the next one is, during your stay at the program, which verses did you find helpful?
I always liked Matthew 11:28. That was the day I got here. That's kind of undeniable. It was presented the day I got here on November 28th, 2017. I kind of chose to go up to a class which wasn't required, but that's where that verse, Matthew 11:28, popped up on the screen in a little video they did, and so that was the day that I knew that I was in the right place and that God had me.
Next one is, how did Adult and Teen Challenge help you?
Go. I mean, I can't even. There's not a whole lot of words that I can come up with. The staff and everybody here, the people that run this place, I don't even really know. I wonder sometimes if they I wonder sometimes if they know or realize how greatly, they impact one person's life. From the chapel services we get, from, the devotions, the guidance that they provide, just navigating you through, open territory where, not a lot of people get to step. They lead you, they guide you through God's word, and there's just so blessed to have this staff and the directors and the ministers and the pastors here that they do, because from where my life was before this, there was absolutely no hope, nothing. And sometimes, especially like right now, putting that question on me, how other people just don't do that for other people. So there's a very special anointment here over everyone, over this place, over the staff, over everybody that is a leader here. And you can't put a price on, you can't put a price on that. It's undescribable. There's just no words. So I just hope, I don't even know if they'd be able to accept that, but it's probably one of the most amazing things that I've got to experience, is just watching these guys, everybody just give up their lives to save other people's lives. And that's what it is. It's a total self-sacrifice.
That was good, dude. It's the same way I felt too. I still feel. Oh, that was good. Okay. The next one is, describe when God broke the chains of your addiction/problem.
That's really difficult. I don't know if I view addiction like everybody views addiction. I personally, believe that addiction has a lot to do with it is just a sin nature, and in effect that that sin nature keeps us bound to the enemy, and so when you turn your life over, I think, and surrender to Christ, that's when, those things that, kept you bound spiritually, they just dissolve. And instead of, doing the things that our flesh wants to do, like use drugs or get high or get drunk, do whatever we want to do, sexual and moral sins, whatever it may be, when you surrender your life to Christ, I think that I found that, my heart, my spirit doesn't take pleasure in those things, and that's been the whole battle of my entire life. You do something, and Paul says it, my flesh does the things that I no longer wish, my spirit to do, but, when they conflict, that's when the battle occurs, and it's, without surrender, flesh always wins, I suppose. But I, for personally, I just found that, the things that I used to take joy and pleasure in doing, I don't want to do those things anymore. It's a compromise of the spirit, and I don't have the heart to do those things any longer.
Check something real quick. Just want to make sure this thing's still good. Yeah, okay. Okay, next one is, tell us your most memorable experience in the program with God.
I don't know that I can pick one. There's a 100, there's 1,000. I just, again, I go to the day I got here. It was very clear that, instead of, the enemy having me where he wanted me out in the world, God separated me, brought me here. And it was very clear that day, that just the day I got here, that this was his intention for my life. And realizing through all that, looking back for 20 years of just anguish and bitterness and addiction, realizing all that stuff that I went through, all the trash that I went through, all the loss that I experienced, hit me that day, that, it was all worth it, because he personally reached out and touched me that day, and I knew where I was at. I knew where I was supposed to be.
Okay, next one is, how do you think God thinks of you now?
I hope he's got a sense of humor, a good one. But I know that I hope that he thinks of me as just a virtuous warrior, a fighter, and hopefully someone that he can rely on and trust to be a messenger. And other than that, I just have to hold fast that, I'll keep him out in front of me, and that I'll just fulfill my life's commitment, my life's purpose for his will. And that's all I can do.
Next one is, sum up your life in 3 sentences.
Three sentences or 3 words?
3 sentences.
3 sentences? Oh, okay. I had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun. I think that I always could do better. I can always do better. And nothing's ever good enough for the king. But every day I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep giving giving everything I can because glory to God. That's about it.
Adult and teen challenge made me into, and then you finish the sentence. Hang on a
Don't.
second.
Hey, we're recording here, so you guys.
Be as loud.
Shut up.
Rambunctious.
We've got one question left.
What are you recording?
Matt Henderson.
Come on in. Come on in. Help me answer some of these. They're
We've got
hard.
some good stuff going on.
Can't hear ya.
They're real hard.
Alright, so 2 questions left.
Huh.
The one we just did is going to be a statement. You're saying adult and teen challenge made me into, and then you finish it.
Adult and teen challenge made me into the man, the person that everybody knew that I already was and that I couldn't see for myself.
Then this last one is, what are your plans after graduation?
That's not up to me. That's I think part of walking in the faith, and so just one step ahead. You know, I can see what's going on in this day and tomorrow, whatever comes in tomorrow. It's not always up to me, so just take the days as they come. Good things are coming. But you know, there's things I'd like to do. There's things that I would love to do and experience in life. But maybe I don't. Maybe that's one of the blessings and curses that I have, is that like I've got this thing over me where like I can't even. When I think about tomorrow, it's just I can't. I don't know what it is, but I'm just. And it's weird because that's one of the things that I've always admired and wanted to be able, like a character attribute that I've always loved and wanted, for my own life, is just to live in the day, live in the moment, And it's one of them supernatural gifts, I guess, because I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it before. But I guess, in the long distance, really like to reconcile with my family, reconcile with my children who I haven't seen for a couple years, pay any debts that I have or owe, just give back everything that's been given, everything that I took, everything that I wasted, just to be able to give it back somehow.
Amen. One of the best ones we've done, dude.
Yeah. That's excellent.
Yeah, I wish you'd have been in here for the other question.